seen the Nathan Brown press conference on the Saturday night, but then you see what's said, and everyone's just sitting there and laughing at some man's misfortune. And for me, you don't say that at a press conference. Like, okay, Nathan might have been upset with the fact that Wayne came out and had a crack at him. He might have seen it that way. I'm not necessarily sure it was a crack. But to take it to the next level and into the gutter and talk about someone's private life, and everyone out there who enjoyed the laugh, like half society has gone through marriage troubles and breakups and divorces. Do you really need to take it into a press conference? Do you really need to? At the end of the day, I can't believe the NRL hasn't acted on it. Like a couple of years ago, Ricky Stewart got fined 10 grand for saying shit. And he immediately pulled himself up and said, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. On this occasion, it just goes through to the keeper. I wonder if it was said about Todd Greenberg or one of his senior staff or one of his referees or one of his female employees. Do you think he would have sat back on his hands and allowed it to go through to the keeper?
Well, there's the right battle there. If it was one of his female employees, they'd be all over it. Because they're politically correct.
And because Wayne Bennett at the moment is the public punching bag, it's okay. Well, it's not okay, mate. It's not okay, because what happens if another coach goes and says it about another coach, and that coach doesn't happen to be a 68-year-old man, but a 48-year-old man who wants to knock his block off? Do they walk out in the tunnel and have a balloon?
And the other issue you've got is that a lot of this argument about the state that Wayne Bennett left the Knights in is not rooted in fact.
Well, mate, I heard you say it on the weekend, and it got me going a bit, because you said that they don't have, that he left their juniors in disarray or in a mess. Well, mate, it's just not the case. Like the final year there, mate, their under-20s were the minor premiers. Their Harold Matthews team won the junior competition. Their SG ball team was in the finals, and their New South Wales Cup team made the finals. From that under-20s system that Wayne put in place, and my brother Mick was the coach there, so I know the situation well, mate. They've had 23 players that I can think of that have gone on to play NRL. Half their current 30-man roster, 15 of them are there, mate. 15. So you talk about not putting the juniors in a good situation. Graham Murray was brought into the club. Back then, mate, he was visiting kids like young Brock Lamb and Jack Cogger at school and working with them. They set up this wonderful system that continues today. Like, it wasn't such a bad thing, Paul.
They also brought in the high performance unit.
They did, mate.
With Nathan Tinkler's name.
And then you think about the other fact that is thrown back at Wayne on every occasion is that he had all these back-ended contracts. Who? Who are we talking about there? Because I'll tell you now, most of the deals that went bad happened the following year when Rick Stone was in charge of that club. And through convenience, Rick Stone has rubbed out a history, and we throw it all back on Wayne, which is what Nathan Brown did the other day again. Like, at what point do Newcastle and the Newcastle Knights accept responsibility that Wayne left in 2014 and we're now in 2018? Because what coach goes into a roster happy with the situation after a coach has walked away? None.
Look, the other thing
you have to make changes.
The other thing we need to acknowledge here is that Nathan Brown is privy to information that we are not. He knows the depth of what Newcastle, the state it was in when he took over, and who was responsible.
Ben, we all know that what the club was at when Wayne left. Because Nathan Tinkler had fallen over, mate. It had fallen over. Like that final year in 2013, one game short of a grand final, mate. I think Wayne may have even got Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, Paul.
But let's go through it though, mate. Following year, they had the drama with Russell Packer at the start of the season. Then they had Alex's terrible injury. Then they had the fact on the 15th of each month, more often than not, the players and most of the staff didn't get paid, mate. So at the end of the season, yes, it was turmoil. Every staff member there was told to reapply for their job under different conditions.
Not arguing with you.
People expect Wayne to have stayed, but at the end of the day, who hasn't left an organisation for a better offer?
I agree, but Nathan Brown has a right to feel aggrieved around how he heard what Wayne Bennett said in the lead up to that game. You might have heard it that way.
Go back. He is entitled. Everything he said up until the final comment, go for your life, mate. You're entitled to defend yourself. But he went further, Ben. He brought Wayne's marriage breakup into it at a press conference, and then he backed it up with the fact that the Knights were left in an awful situation. Well, mate, it wasn't all Wayne's fault that the Knights were in a bad situation when the Nathan Tinkler system fell over.
I agree. And he stepped over the line. But in his mind, so did Wayne Bennett. There was no reason for
Completely different, mate.
It is completely different, but it was still a bar.
But listen,
And it didn't need to be
the
said.
personal situation into it. If we weren't talking about the personal situation, we wouldn't be talking about this now. We wouldn't. That's the simple fact.
There's still, even if it hadn't have been a personal sledge come back from
But it
Nathan
is,
Brown,
mate. That's what we're talking about.
But if he had sledged him back in the press conference and it had been professional, we would still be talking about it.
You've spoken about the back-ended contracts. Who? Who was it?
I didn't say anything about back-ended contracts.
But on radio on Sunday,
I didn't say anything about back-ended contracts.
I didn't say all the time.
Look, I've spoken to people today about it, and what you said about the 15 and the 30, I was told that, the high performance, I agree with. But the other part is Wayne left his contract a year early when there was a lot of work to be done, and rather than and he came in on the big white ship saying, you know what, we're going to build this club, we're going to win a premiership, and 3 years into the job he said, too tough a job for me, I'm out a year early, I've organised already a job for myself at the Broncos, and I'm going there, and the Newcastle fans sat there and said, well, you know what, you've just delivered us.
Circumstances change in all things. I'll tell you one thing,
We get that, though.
most of his staff that were told, well, they had years remaining on their contracts at the time, and they were told, no, circumstances change. They were all called into Matt Gibley's office.
New ownership.
This is new ownership. Your contract doesn't exist anymore. I'll tell you one thing Wayne did do. He might not have got them all jobs, but if they were having trouble getting jobs, he tried to help them out to the best of his ability. All right, mate. At the moment, the bloke wears the black hat. He's responsible for the global deficit, global warming, the whole kit and caboodle, mate. He's done a lot of good things in this game. Last week we celebrated, and rightfully so, Craig Bellamy coaching 400 NRL games. What a wonderful achievement. You can't downplay it. You know how many Bennett's coached? 793. Along the way, you're going to make a few enemies, mate.
Well,
it doesn't make him the best guy in the world.
The week you get final say. Thanks.